Case, we crossed our SABC reporter Manqoba Mchunu at the North Gauteng High Court. Manqoba, good morning to you. And can you please update us on what happened yesterday?
Well, Elvis, basically what happened yesterday is that we heard testimony from some of Pistorius' neighbors. In fact, the two people who were first at Pistorius' home moments after he shot and killed River Steenkamp, that being Johan Stender, who was the estate manager at Silverwood Estate, as well as Carice, his daughter, Carice Viljoen, who was also there present with him when they walked into Oscar Pistorius carrying the body of River Steenkamp down the staircase. Now, what they did describe to the court basically was Oscar Pistorius' state of emotion or state of mind at that time, describing him as a very distraught person, somebody who was praying, crying all the time, really pleading with God to save River's life, and also pleading that pleading to River herself to stay alive and to stay with him. We saw a picture of an Oscar Pistorius that really was distraught and that really seemed to be very disturbed by what had happened. A totally different picture to that painted by the state, which believes that Oscar Pistorius shot and killed River Steenkamp intentionally and in cold blood. Now, what they were trying to show yesterday is the fact that really Oscar Pistorius did not intend to shoot Steenkamp, that he actually shot Steenkamp by mistake, not intending to kill her, thinking that she was an intruder. In his own words, Johan Stender said in court that Pistorius had called him moments after he shot Steenkamp, saying that, Johan, please come to the house. I've just shot River Steenkamp, thinking she was an intruder. Please come, please come now. So basically seeing a picture of a different Oscar Pistorius, a very distraught Oscar Pistorius who had really committed a mistake after shooting River Steenkamp.
Talking about that picture of Pistorius, what was his emotional demeanor during the proceedings yesterday?
Well, when the court started yesterday, we saw Pistorius really keeping a strong face, concentrating and listening to proceedings. But the minute that Johan Stender came on the stand and started talking about his emotional state at that point, we saw Pistorius himself starting to again succumb to tears, basically being reduced to tears, holding his ears and, seeing him really cry there in court. So you could see the emotions that he could recall really what was happening that day, that he was reliving the events of that day. He was looking distraught throughout the testimony of Stender as well as Viljoen. So we really saw another side of Oscar Pistorius again going back to an emotional state as the details of what happened on that morning were accounted in court.
Manqoba, what can we expect today?
Well, today, Elvis, his lawyers, or Pistorius' lawyers, are playing their cards close to their chest, not wanting to reveal really who their next witness is going to be. But what we do know is that they could call in more neighbors from Silverwood Estate who are going to testify on Oscar's behalf. We are expecting that two of his most nearest neighbors, that being the two neighbors next to his house, are going to be called to testify on what they heard that morning when Oscar Pistorius shot and killed River Steenkamp. We are expecting that they're going to be calling among them Michael and Ion Tlengetwa, who live at number 287, which is a house next to Oscar Pistorius' home, and also Bareng and Rita Mutswana, who also stay on the other house, on the other side of Oscar Pistorius' home. Now, these neighbors are very close to Oscar Pistorius. They are a few meters away from Pistorius' house, unlike the state's witnesses who came before here in court, who stay a few meters, about 70 meters away from Pistorius' home. So they are going to really testify on what they heard, and what we are gathering is that they're going to talk more on hearing screams from a man, unlike the testimony that we've heard from the state witnesses that said they heard screams, blood-curdling screams from a woman, followed by gunshots, and then moments after they heard another screaming from a man. But what we're expecting from these new witnesses is for them to really talk about Oscar Pistorius, hearing Oscar Pistorius scream and shouting after he shot River Steenkamp. We also are looking at the possibility that ballistic expert Tom Vumaris could also be called to testify on behalf of Pistorius. Now, his testimony won't be that different to that of the defense's witness, Roger Dixon, who was called earlier by the defense, who testified the fact that Oscar Pistorius shot in a quick succession when he shot at River Steenkamp, and that the three bullets that followed after the first one actually hit River Steenkamp while she fell. There was also an issue that was raised over the magazine rack, whether that magazine rack was there when River Steenkamp was shot or not. You'll remember that the state claims that River Steenkamp was first shot on the hip and then fell on top of this magazine rack, and then the other 3 bullets followed while she was there on that magazine rack, cowering behind the toilet door. So what the defense is now trying to dispute is that fact that River Steenkamp had an opportunity to basically scream while she was being shot, saying that if she was shot in quick succession, she wouldn't have had time to even scream, therefore dispelling and disputing the claims by the neighbors who claim that they heard screams. While we're also still to hear Oscar Pistorius screaming like a woman, and testimony from an audio expert who's going to testify that Oscar Pistorius does scream like a woman when in distress. So those are some of the things that we're expecting to come out in court. We do know for sure that the defense is planning to close or wrap up its case come next week Friday, and from there we'll then see whether they were able to convince Judge Masipa whether indeed Oscar Pistorius did shoot River Steenkamp by mistake, thinking that she was an intruder.
Manqoba, thank you so much. That was our reporter on the scene, Manqoba Mchunu.